You have to make it really clear who the bad guys are by making them real goopy.
And kind of goofy, too.
Goofy and goopy. My two favorite Disney characters.
Welcome back to Nostalgia Club. This is a show where we talk about things that we're nostalgic for, and then sometimes just other stuff as well. Today is more of a nostalgic-based show, I guess, because we're talking about Howl's Moving Castle, the Ghibli adaptation of the book that I guess a lot less people have read than have watched, ultimately.
Yeah.
I always wonder about that. But I do have someone sitting to the left of me who has read the book.
Whoa!
And who is that?
Well, first of all, who are you?
No, you go first. I will be the mysterious voice of God.
Okay, I'm Victoria, and yes, I have read the book Howl's Moving Castle, but it was like 4 years ago. So I will try to recount to my best knowledge what happens in that book.
4 years ago?
Yeah.
When you told me you had read it, and you're like, I read it a long time ago. And
4
I was
years
like,
is a long time.
Okay, I guess.
The point is, I read it, and I don't remember the details very well.
That's fair.
But I love Howl's Moving Castle. It's one of, I think I've said before, I think it is my favorite Studio Ghibli film. And we'll talk about that on this episode. But first...
Yes, to the right, I have someone who, much like Howl, has been evading the government for the last... No, I'm kidding.
Whoa.
No, please.
State your name, please. Your address, social security number.
My name is Jino, and I have a clean record. I have a clean record.
And my name's Michael.
There we go. I've never done anything wrong. Please don't come for me.
Gino, you must have seen Howl's Moving Castle before.
Oh, yeah. It is up there with Spirited Away and Totoro as like my nostalgic... That's a lie.
Oh.
Porco Rosso is up there with Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle. It's like my nostalgic 3 Ghibli. I've actually only seen Totoro like once, and I only have vague memories of it. But regardless, yeah. Another one where the soundtrack is very iconic, and it's one that my mom would play throughout the house in the morning, or like, I think my brother learned how to play it on the piano too.
Wow.
Just like kind of like evokes my childhood. Although the movie itself, while I remembered a lot of the iconic scenes, my recollection of the plot remained extremely fuzzy until the rewatch. And even after the rewatch remains a little fuzzy because the plot, much like many Studio Ghibli movies, at least in my opinion, is more about vibe and feeling and emotion than it is about like structure, which is fantastic. But it means that like kind of following along what's happening exactly is a little bit of a fool's errand.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's beautiful. It's so nice to watch and listen to. It makes you cry, but you don't know why.
What about you, Michael?
I've also seen it.
Wow.
Hey!
And much like what Gino describes, I remember my first time watching. At a certain point, I realized I didn't understand what was happening or why, but I was like, oh, well, the vibes are fine.
Yeah. As a kid, you're kind of like watching it and you're like, oh, it's pretty and they're running and there's bombs and Calcifer's funny. And as an adult, I was like, I'm an adult now. I'm sophisticated. I'll get what's happening. And about 3/4 of the way through, it lost me a little bit. But the first 3/4, I understand now.
I do think that actually is the common Howl's Moving Castle experience, where a lot of people, even if it's a movie they've watched a million times, there's still like a little bit of a feeling at the end where you're kind of like, I'm not 100% sure that I understand everything that happened in this movie. And sometimes that's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
I do think they kind of realized they were maybe running out of time, like because everything's really great before they do the big magical move, the house move. And then they're like back in the hat shop. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But after that, they're like, oh, we got a limited amount of time. Let's wrap up Howl's character arc here, and then that creates a crisis, and then we got to deal with this and magical stuff, and resolved.
Yeah. It is 2 hours long, so it's already a beefy movie.
Yeah.
But
worth all the 2 hours, I think.
yeah, it's just so pretty.
Yeah. Just the vibes are really great.
Yeah. Even watching it on your 5-inch phone screen. So pretty.
Well, thank you for joining us on Nostalgia. Let's talk, plot?
Sure, I'll do a quick plot summary.
Go ahead.
I believe in you.
Thanks. I'll do my best. So Howl's Moving Castle follows Sophie Hatter, who is a hat maker. She makes hats.
Didn't realize her last name was Hatter.
Yeah, that's her name. She is the eldest of 3 sisters, so she has 2 younger sisters. At the beginning of the story, she's very quiet and reserved, and she mostly stays in the hat shop, and she just kind of goes out to visit her sister, who works at a bakery, and even her sister's like, I would really encourage you to do something other than be at the hat shop, you don't have to do that. You could find your own passion or whatnot. And Sophie's like, no, I feel like I should keep working there because it was father's hat shop and whatnot. So that's sort of the character that we set up of Sophie, who clearly doesn't live for herself, lives for her family or for the sense of responsibility that she has. One day when she goes out to visit her sister, she has a run-in with some soldiers because there's an ongoing war. There's a prince in a neighboring country who is missing, and so they've used that as a reason to start a war between these 2 countries. There's these soldiers who start kind of harassing her in a alleyway, and she's rescued by a wizard. She doesn't know who the wizard is, but you do get some background conversations about this wizard named Howl, who apparently steals young girls' hearts. And so you're like, this is probably Howl. Also, the movie is called Howl's Moving Castle. So
also, he stole my heart with that introduction.
I mean,
you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Leans over with that Christian Bale, hello, miss, and you're like, oh.
Yes, she is definitely. At first, she's like, okay, now I'm in like a really scary situation where there's soldiers and like a weird guy. But Howl rescues her from the soldiers, and then he escorts her through flight to the bakery.
There's also weird goo guys after him.
Yeah, he's being chased by some goo monsters, and so they take flight. He takes her to the bakery, and she's a bit taken by him. She's like, whoa, that just happened. She goes home that night. She's closing down the hat shop, and this woman walks in, the Witch of the Waste. She's basically like, my goon saw you with Howl, and I'm looking for him, so I want you to talk to Howl for me. And Sophie's like, no, please leave. And the witch is annoyed, and so she puts a curse on Sophie and turns her into an old woman. And Sophie's like, oh dear, I'm an old woman.
And she can't talk about the curse.
Yes, she can't speak about the curse, and so she's left as an old woman. At first, she's like, okay, this is just a dream. Just go to bed. And so the next morning she wakes up. She's still an old woman. So she decides. So it's not super clear in this movie why she decides to head out to like the wilderness, essentially, because she just like goes and she like packs a little like lunch for herself and she goes for a long walk. And you're like, where is she going? At first, you're like, is she looking for Howl? But why would she be looking for Howl specifically? So a little bit of additional context. In the book, one of her younger sisters works at a bakery, which we talked about. The other sister is actually a witch.
Oh.
So perhaps my assumption is that she's going to look for her sister to help her break the curse. But they really don't. They sort of like...
There is when she passes like a field worker who says like, oh, she's looking for her younger sister.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like...
I thought it was an excuse, right?
Yeah.
Like she's just like, I'm... Because she does sort of like... She adopts the persona of like an old lady very quickly.
She was built for the role.
Yeah.
My internal joke was, this is a movie about my friend Victoria.
It's highly relatable. I will talk more about...
I was like, oh look, she's got back issues. Also like...
Oh my God.
Sorry, cut that.
I relate to Sophie's character a lot. So she's wandering, maybe looking for her sister, and she comes across a scarecrow. She rescues a scarecrow who's stuck upside down. He's kind of a funny little guy, and she calls him Turnip Head. He's a scarecrow who can bounce around. She asks him mainly as like sort of a way to like get him off her tail. She's like, go find me a place to stay because it's starting to get dark. And he brings her Howl's Moving Castle, which is, as it sounds, it's a giant mecha moving house on legs. And so she goes inside because it's dark and she takes shelter there and she meets Calcifer, who is a fire demon. And she sort of bullies her way into staying there. So at first Calcifer is like, we can't help you, lady, or whatever. And she's like, no, I'm your new, I'm going to stay here. This place is a mess. I'm going to be your cleaning lady. So she decides to stay as their cleaning lady. Howl comes back from a mysterious void. He's like fighting in the war.
Is that what he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
He's like actively fighting on whose side?
He's fighting neutrally.
He's just fighting.
He's just fighting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Is he trying to minimize damage or something? He's trying to just sabotage the war effort.
Yeah. So Howl returns from the war because he has a magical door where each dial on the door leads to a different place. And they eat a really delicious breakfast that always makes me want bacon and eggs.
Yeah.
And there's 1,000 videos on YouTube on how to make it. First, bacon. Second, eggs.
Also important is Sophie strikes a deal with Calcifer, where Calcifer is sort of annoyed with his position where he's in charge of moving the castle and doing a bunch of things for Howl. And he's like, I want to break my contract with Howl. So if you can figure out how to break my contract with Howl, I will help you break your curse, or I will try. And so Sophie joins their little family as first their cleaning lady. Howl has an apprentice named Markle, who basically like does sort of like the day-to-day things that Howl doesn't want to do, like selling potions or like little like spells for people. Also in the background, because of the war, Howl is being summoned by 2 countries to fight on their side. He has all these personas, right? Like he's the wizard Pendragon, but he's also the wizard Jenkins, and both have been summoned by the king. And he's like, what do I do? But he's also a coward, so he's like, I'm just going to run away.
Is he summoned by 2 countries or one king is 2 people?
I thought it was one king is 2 people.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 countries at first, and then later he was like, I have to show up as both of these people at the same time. And so I got a little confused.
Oh, that's possible.
There's also a later point where Sophie, like they're looking at one of those like sky battleships, and Sophie asks like, is it one of ours? And Howl's like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I think Howl is like only operating in one country, but as 2 people. And so when the king's like, both of you need to come, Howl's like, uh-oh.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess it confused me because one of the locations is near the coast.
Yeah.
And so, because Sophie says, like, I've never seen the ocean, whereas the other location is closer to where she grew up.
I think it's just like a big country. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it does make sense because when they go to the coast location, that's attacked first, and then they retreat inland, and then that's attacked second. So it's like,
yeah.
Because also like another background conversation mentions, oh, like they've landed, they're taking land now.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know.
It's background stuff ultimately.
It's not that important. The real drama is between Calcifer.
Is between the bacon and eggs.
So true.
Delicious.
Both
Anyways.
so tasty. Both. The health benefits are, I don't know. There's a lot of carcinogens here and a lot of cholesterol here.
But they're so good.
But they're so good. 2 hours of this. No.
And that's the rest of the movie. No. Sophie, meanwhile, what's great is that she becomes almost like a different person in her old age. Like she no longer cares what other people think of her. And so she's like, I'm just going to say whatever I want to say. And I'm going to be a grumpy old lady. And everyone is just going to have to deal with it. And I love that for her. And so as a solution for being summoned and not wanting to go, Howl decides to send Sophie in his place to the palace in order to report in as his mother. I think that's why I got confused about the countries, is because he specifically says, you're just going to be Mrs. Pendragon, but he doesn't mention Jenkins. So that's why I was like...
I think he just abandoned the Jenkins persona.
I guess so.
I think he was writing that off, and he was like, I'll maintain the Pendragon thing because it's in the capital. But
That's
the
true,
Jenkins one's just in some nice coast town.
Yeah, because the main thing is, because he went to the academy, he's sworn an oath to show up whenever the king summons him.
Yeah.
So he kind of has no way out of that. So he sends Sophie. Sophie goes and encounters the Witch of the Waste at the same time.
And the best dog you've ever seen.
Yeah, and this dog, Heen.
Who just goes,
Yeah.
Relatable.
And she meets Solomon, who is the head wizard for the king, and also Howl's former teacher, who knows that Sophie is not Howl's mother, and basically is just like, I can't believe he sent this old lady in his place. But she also can tell that Sophie has a curse on her. She blasts the Witch of the Waste with powerful magic so that she loses all of her magic.
big light bulbs.
Yeah.
Big magic light bulbs.
And so then Howl comes and rescues Sophie and the Witch of the Waste and the dog from the palace.
in a great turnabout,
Yeah.
choosing to... I love how Sophie actually like reads him well because he tells her, I'll be following in disguise.
Yeah.
And she's like looking around and
She's like, would he be a pigeon? No, he's too flamboyant for that.
And she sees like one of those like personal little sky transports and like flying around like very flamboyant. And she's like, that's his style.
Yeah.
And sure enough, when he shows up on like a little sky transport pretending to be the king. And he's like, I've decided we're not going to use magicians anymore. Thank you, Solomon. And then the actual king shows up.
Yeah.
I love the stark difference in personalities as well, where when he's pretending to be the king, he's like, anything to get out of a war meeting. And when the actual king shows up, he's like, I'm scheduling another war meeting. I can't wait.
I love war. Oh, it's me. Well, back to being war king.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they escape. Sophie crashes the plane into the castle, and Howl goes off to continue the war effort. He has this ongoing issue where if he overuses his magic, he turns into a bird man. And if he does it too much, he will no longer be able to turn back to a human. And Calcifer warns him of this. He's like, there are other wizards who have turned themselves into monsters for the king, and they will no longer be able to turn back into humans. So there's like an ongoing tension of, is Howl going to reach the point of no return? Then Howl moves them, because he's now running away from Solomon. So he moves the castle. He does a whole renovation. Some of the new portals are, one is like a beautiful flower field, which was like his childhood home. And then another one is Sophie's hat shop, which they really don't explain.
Yeah, that confused me.
That they literally take over where her hat shop used to be.
I thought it was like adjacent to it. It was like an adjoining
I thought that first,
thing.
but then like she walks out and the doors are like the doors to the hat shop. It's basically like her home that's next to the hat shop, but it's her room.
It confused me because she is in charge of the hat shop because it was her father's, but she acts like an employee to someone else.
Yeah.
But I guess when she leaves, because she's the owner, the hat shop shuts down. And so they're able to move in without like crushing some employees. But then I was also confused about how she feels about it because she doesn't seem very excited to be back in the hat shop.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of weird when you're like, pseudo magical boyfriend is like, I'll make you a new home. It's work. So I was like, I don't know what's happening.
For a long time when I watched that scene, I thought that he had created a room reminiscent of her room in the hat shop as a sense of familiarity. But this time it's like her room and like she gets to take ownership of it and like do whatever she wants there.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's a nice, sweet gesture. But then I was like, okay, now she's like turned the hat shop into a flower shop. So that's like a little bit confusing, but it's fine.
You're right, though. As soon as they move, the plot kind of goes a little woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, because then the focus is like not only is Solomon after them, but now the war has escalated to now they're bombing her city and town. And so
Howl has now at this point determined that he doesn't want to lose his found family and is determined to save the hat shop.
Yeah.
Even though they could presumably just move again, but he's like, no. It's your hat shop, and I'm going to save it, even if I have to turn into a big bird man to do it.
Yeah. And so Sophie says, we got to unlink the castle from the hat shop. So she comes up with this plan where she has everyone leave the castle, and then she scoops up Calcifer, and then she exits with Calcifer being last so that he no longer has control over the castle, and it all just falls apart. Through a series of other shenanigans, now because the castle is now like in a pile of rubble, but they managed to like extract like one small location. But then the Witch of the Waste realizes that
who at this point is a friend?
Yeah, she's like a friend.
Hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
Her magic's gone, and she's like, she still wants Howl's heart.
But she has no power, so she's not like...
She's not actively causing problems.
Exactly. I think like they've sort of written her off as not being a threat because they're like, oh, she doesn't have magic anymore. She's basically just like a sad old woman.
Yeah.
And so it's fine. We've got other things to worry about. But then she realizes that Calcifer has Howl's heart. And so she steals Calcifer. Calcifer goes crazy trying to escape and almost like burns down the place and also burns the Witch of the Waste. And so Sophie throws water on him, which weakens him. And then their whole like makeshift little like robot guy falls apart. Sophie is separated from the rest and she enters a magical portal because she has a ring that Howl gave her, which is like if you're ever lost, like this will help you find me. And it leads her into the past, essentially.
Yeah, it's like when their little component of the castle that they got moving again falls apart. The part that falls with Sophie as it all comes to pieces includes the magic door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the door opens to
the past.
The past.
Somehow, for reasons.
Yeah, and her ring is leading her through the door. So she goes through the door with Heen, which
I don't know why, the little dog Heen is,
But he's great, so we love him. Yeah. And so she goes through, she witnesses the moment that Howl meets Calcifer, because Calcifer was originally a falling star. Howl caught him, and he made a deal with Calcifer, giving up his heart. So he swallows the fallen star, and Calcifer emerges from his chest with his heart. And that's the origin of how they began their partnership, why Howl needs Calcifer, why if Calcifer dies, Howl also dies, because he literally has his heart and his source of life. So now Sophie realizes that's how I will save Howl, is by giving him his heart back. And then she's pulled back to the present, but not before she actually speaks to Howl in the past and says, "It's me, Sophie. I know how to help you find me in the future." And she goes back.
Which is wild.
Which is crazy.
But I guess if you just swallowed a speaking shooting star, you'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anything can happen now.
Yeah. When she returns to the present, Howl is there, and he's basically in full bird form, and she manages to get him back to the rest of the gang. She asks the Witch of the Waste for Calcifer. Calcifer, thankfully, is okay, even though she threw water on him. And she's like, "Calcifer, I need to give Howl his heart back. Will you be okay?" And he's like, "I think if you do it, I will be fine." So she gives Howl his heart back, and the day is saved. Hooray!
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 Calcifer is released. He becomes a shooting star again, but then he decides to stay with their little found family, which is cute. Also, Turnip Head, the scarecrow, he's there. Oh, he saves them because, like, they're on, like, a wooden plank and it starts falling, and he sacrifices his, like, scarecrow stick to stop their fall. And so she gives him a kiss as thanks, and he turns into the prince who is missing. Whoa!
The cause of the war.
The cause of the war. So he's like, "I'm going to leave now and tell them not to fight anymore."
He says, like, "A true love's kiss." And then Sophie's like, "Oh." And he's like, "Oh."
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess I'll head out. Bye.
Yeah. And
Thousands are dead.
Thousands are dead.
I feel really bad for that guy. Like, he got turned into a scarecrow. He falls in love with this woman who helps him. But by the time he turns back into a human, she's already fallen in love with someone else.
He was living out a totally different fairy tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they rebuild the castle. It can fly now. And they live
fly
happily
now.
ever after.
They fly now.
And
So-
that's Howl's Moving Castle.
Howl, from what we see in the movie, Howl is only like a competent partner 50% of the time. I don't have a lot of faith for their relationship, but maybe now he's not turning into a big bird. He can concentrate on bettering himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Howl is very dramatic. Oh, I forgot to add that by the end, Sophie has returned to her younger self, but this time she has really pretty silver hair. Hooray!
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have like thoughts about the themes of this movie,
Mhm.
but yes, Howl is a very interesting character because his whole thing is that he's a coward. He has magic, but he really only uses it for selfish reasons. But also, he doesn't like the war, so he is kind of using it. I guess he is helping people with his magic, but sort of on his own terms. And at one point, Sophie messes up all his magic potions in the bathroom, and so he dyes his hair orange, and he has a huge breakdown about it. And it's one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie. He turns into goo.
It's where we see him like lose the like charismatic, cool demeanor for the first time.
He's
and
like,
he's just like a
"There's
vain
no
dude.
point in living
Yeah.
if I can't be beautiful." But I actually, on this rewatch, I was like, I don't think people talk enough about Sophie's own breakdown after that moment. Because Howl is like being super dramatic. He's like, "I'm so ugly," and he's calling on the spirits of darkness or whatever.
to
Yeah.
take him.
And then Sophie is basically like, "You're stupid." And she says, like, "I've never been beautiful a day in my life." And she runs away. And I guess I'll get into it a little bit now. But a lot of people don't like this movie because a lot of the focus is on Sophie's physical appearance, of her believing that she's not very beautiful. I mean, she says it frequently throughout the movie. At the beginning, she thinks of herself as very plain, and she really just like has no self-confidence, really. So a lot of people think that the movie's message is maybe too surface level in terms of like, this is a movie about Sophie accepting herself and realizing her inner beauty or something like that. And they say like the curse is broken because of her love for Howl, but it's also kind of like, oh, well, she like, because she loves Howl and Howl loves her, then she realizes she does have beauty and blah, blah, blah. I personally think it's more about her loving herself and just finding her own self-confidence. Because it's the moments where she gets the most outspoken and confident that she starts returning back to her younger self again. Like you can see her, even when she remains an old woman, you can see her physically stand up straighter and taller. And she, at the very beginning of the movie, when she's cleaning, she actually like gets really into cleaning, which relatable. Actually, like the food sequence is really satisfying, but the cleaning sequence was even more satisfying to me. Like it's just nice to like see her turn the dump of a castle into like a nice place to live. But she does say like, oh, I feel so energized. And I think it's like, because she's just like, I want to clean this place, so I'm going to clean it and no one is going to stop me.
Yeah.
And
it just so happens that the moment she's taking control are involving Howl. But I think you're right. I think it's not because of Howl. It's just that he happens to be there during those scenes. But to me, it also reads like a story of her like taking charge of her own life and like self-acceptance and like being actionable instead of being passive.
Yeah, and near the end of the movie, there's like a whole thing where she gets a visit from her mother, who has been paid by Solomon to put like a spy device in Howl's home.
Yeah.
And so her mother is like, oh, I've remarried to a really rich man, and so you should come and live with us. You don't have to work anymore. You don't have to work in this hat shop. And Sophie is like, no, Mom, actually, I want to stay. Like, I like this life. And she's choosing for herself for the first time what she wants to do, which at the beginning she wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think that is a nice message. And also she just like finds peace and tranquility in her life as an old woman. Like there's so many moments where like she's finished laundry or cleaning and then she's like, I'm just going to sit by the sea or by this lake and just enjoy the sunset. And I was like,
only. I want that life so bad. I want to be able to walk outside of my home and then sit at a lake and watch the sunset.
Yeah.
And there's no bugs. That's a big part.
Very important.
Yeah. I can't wait for that part of my life when there's no bugs and the world's ecology collapses.
That real golden hour between the beginning of the mass die-off and the final end, where everything just gets nice and quiet and picturesque.
Nice and quiet. No birds, no bugs, no animals.
No traffic, no noise.
No traffic, no flowers, no grass, no air.
No pastries. No pastries.
No pastries.
Yeah. In terms of Howl and Sophie's relationship, though, he does say that Sophie encourages him to not be a coward anymore, to stop running, and to actually fight for what he wants. So I guess it's like almost two sides of the same coin, where they're both struggling to hold on to or even just accept that there's something that they want. So Howl similarly decides that he's choosing to use his magic to protect his family or whatnot. So
Victoria bobs her head. Like,
this is, again, like, even though I've seen this movie so many times, I still think like there are different ways of interpreting it or different ways to look at it and dig into the details. Do we want to talk about Book Sophie real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so from my recollection and also a brief Wikipedia yesterday. So again, I'm so sorry to people who've read the book.
I'm so sorry, Sophie.
Yeah. I'm so sorry if I get something wrong. But in the book, I think the most interesting thing about Sophie's character at the start is that she is still the eldest of 3 daughters, but the whole world basically believes in fairy tale tropes. So because Sophie is the eldest, everyone automatically assumes that she will never amount to anything. Her 2 younger sisters get to live more exciting lives again, one of her sisters works at a bakery and the other sister is studying to be a witch. And Sophie is like, I'm just the older sister. And she sort of resigned herself.
So it's a little
that.
like meta.
Yeah.
The world is genre aware.
Yeah. But she actually has magic herself. Sophie has the ability to speak things into existence. Just wanted to clarify that the specific wording for Sophie's powers, which I should have used but forgot about, is that she can speak life into objects. She has the power of manifestation.
Okay, yeah.
So the reason why this plays into her work at the hat shop is as she's working on a client's hat, she's unaware of it, by the way. She's not aware of it at the beginning. But she'll just like talk to herself, right? As she's like adding decorations to a hat. And for example...
My favorite Ninja Turtle is Michelangelo.
Whoa, cowabunga! How'd you get in here? Big turtle!
So, for example, she made a hat for her mother and she said something about like, you will find fortune or something like that. And that's why her mom ends up marrying someone very wealthy. So it's essentially like she puts magic into things that help things become realized for other people. And in the book, the reason why the Witch of the Waste goes after Sophie is not because of Howl. It's literally because she feels threatened by Sophie.
Oh.
She's like, your magic, whether you know it or not, is infringing on my plans. And so I'm going to put a curse on you so you can't do that as easily anymore. So she turns her into an old woman because of that. The rest of the movie is sort of similar. There's no war in the book. Like, there's no ongoing war conflict. It's most likely that Miyazaki added that element because of his own anti-war sentiments. But the dynamic between Howl and Sophie is they are so annoyed at each other at the beginning. Like, Howl is actually like, he's a very selfish guy. Like, he's totally just using magic to like avoid responsibility. And he's kind of a womanizer. And Sophie shows up and similarly like bullies her way into working for him or staying at the castle. And they just don't like each other at the beginning. Like, they're constantly like arguing or annoyed at each other.
Well, my favorite Ninja Turtle is Donatello.
It's the perfect set of ingredients for a very exciting relationship.
Yeah. Also, the craziest thing in this book is Howl's backstory is completely different. So he has the same thing where he has a door that leads to like different places. He's like got multiple identities and whatnot. And instead of the black dial leading to the war in the movie, in the book, it leads to his childhood home in Wales, like our Wales. So the backstory is Howl is from our world and he got isekai'd into Sophie's world. And
just magically?
He like found a portal. And he just walked through the portal. And he was like, I like it here. And so he will go back to visit his family in Wales. Yeah.
Cool. Just bring back like a Nintendo DS or Pop-Tarts.
He like plays rugby apparently. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I do recommend reading the book. In the book that I read, I remember there was like a little interview at the end with the author, and the interviewer asked like, what do you think about Miyazaki's adaptation of Howl's Moving Castle? Because there are some notable differences. And she's like, I really enjoy it. Like, I think it's really neat. He has his own spin on the story and she has her original story. There's also, I think, there's not only the first book, but there's 2 other books in that series. I don't know if they specifically focus on Sophie and Howl. I think they are there, but maybe the focus is on other characters.
So the movie took the general characters and ideas and then kind of went in their own direction. But the book, there's no war plot. It's more relationship focused, maybe?
Yeah, and I mean, there's still the same things of like Howl having his heart taken by Calcifer. All of those plot points of Sophie helping Howl like basically accept his heart back are similar in the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Nice.
I think your analysis is spot on, specifically about Sophie taking initiative in her own life. It sort of syncretizes with her falling in love with Howl, I guess, or her connection to him. But even in the moments where it's like, because there's a moment where she goes to find him after he's come home from being a bird, and he's still a bird. And he's in his chambers that magically turn into like a tunnel.
I think
Was
that's
that
a dream, actually.
Is that a dream?
She has a dream that Howl comes home. Well, it's actually, I guess there's, again, multiple interpretations. One interpretation could be that it's just a dream. Maybe she just like sensed that something was going on with Howl and the dream kind of confirms it. In the movie, they don't have Sophie have magic, but I do think in subtle ways you could interpret it as her having magic because they sort of hint at like she's the only one who can like get Calcifer to do things without Howl being there, which is like unheard of. You could interpret that as being because Sophie's power is the power of manifestation and sort of like influencing situations that she wants to happen. You could say it's because she tells Calcifer like, you are going to do this now. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do it, you know? And I mean, you can kind of notice like when she's doing that like negative self-talk, that's when she becomes more frail. And when she becomes more confident, it's sort of her literally speaking the curse out of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can definitely interpret that way.
Near the end of the movie, she is her like younger form for a very extended period of time when she is thinking of, okay, how do we get Howl out away from the war? And like, how do I break the castle and then retrofit the castle?
Yeah. And I do like how when she becomes her younger self again, she keeps the silver hair because it's also an indication of like, she wasn't that person that she was at the beginning of the movie. That also wasn't her, and she's not this old woman. She's like a new, more confident version of herself. But yes, that sequence that you're talking about, Michael, you could interpret it as her having a dream. Maybe if she is magical, she like picked up on the magic happening around him or whatnot. Another possible interpretation is that really did happen, and then Howl like made her forget and like made her think it was a dream or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just found it interesting how she's like her younger form and she goes to see him and is appealing to him to back off and like, no, I can help you. And when he flies away and he's like, you're too late, she reverts back to her older form, which I thought was interesting in the context of that theme of her transformation being related to her self-assurity and like sort of in order for like in a way her own curse to be broken and for Howl's own curse to be broken, like they both have to arrive at the same place together in a way. And there's like a neat little, it's like it doesn't change the context of that meaning of like they both have to change an essential part of how they've been thinking and feeling and operating. But like the final piece is in them like coming together and like click, and then it just sort of like locks the solution in place.
Yeah.
Which is a fun thing. Howl riding a bomb down into a courtyard.
Very Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also definitely, when I was a kid, I took the scene very literally, which I think added to my confusion. But this most recent rewatch, I was like, no, that's a dream sequence. That can't be happening. Because where do the tunnels go? I don't know.
I figured it was just magic. I was like,
magic.
He's got enough portals.
Yeah.
I do love how Howl's room is like absolutely covered in a bunch of like magical esoterica, and a lot of it is kind of off-putting and like darkly multicolored and frightening.
Yeah, well, he does say like all of this magic is to keep people away.
Yeah.
And so maybe they intentionally made his room off-putting because like he is trying to get people to stay away from his business, but also just like he's afraid of vulnerability, which kind of plays into the theme of why he gives up his heart, because he doesn't like to be weighed down by his emotion almost. Yeah. And he feels lighter when he doesn't have to worry about literally the burden of a heart. It means he's very lonely because even if other people love him, he can't really love them back. Yeah.
I had a question about the little mop hair blonde attendants in the castle.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, because they all look like miniature Howls from the beginning of the movie. And I wasn't sure. They all seem like clones too.
Yeah.
Because I was like, are they like assistants? Are they royalty? Are they homunculi? Are they little Howl clones? Because this person is obsessed with Howl and so made a bunch of like mini Howls to serve her.
I think that's it. Solomon is like fixated on getting Howl back and talks about how he was like her last major apprentice or whatever.
Yeah.
And when we meet Howl, he's got blonde hair. That changes. And sure enough, like you can imagine maybe when he was younger, he like changed his hair to be blonde or she changed it to be blonde. And the king even says when he shows up and Howl's there pretending to be him, he's like, "Oh, Solomon, that's the best double of me you've made yet." And so I wouldn't be surprised if she was like, "I want my little helpers, my little secretaries and servants to just be that little boy that I remember, that little Howl."
Which is very creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool visual storytelling. Because she's very much, she just seems like just a regular older woman who's in a position of authority, whom you know probably has her fingers in some nasty places, but who behaves pretty like straightforward. But the dementedness of that power you can see in the fact that she has all these clones of her protege in child form.
Yeah.
I have like a slightly alternate potential option looking at this, which is
It's okay, just sweep the leg out from under me.
No, it's still creepy, but another possibility is if she is someone who trains young sorcerers, maybe she requires all of her proteges to wear a certain uniform, which is like blonde bob haircut for some reason. So it's like similar to what you said, but like adjacent to that, where instead of like clones of Howl specifically,
They all have
that
to
could
look a
just be
certain
like
way.
her uniform for like her students.
Interesting.
And so it sort of like makes it interesting when like, because at the beginning Howl has blonde hair, and then when he meets Sophie, he reverts back to his original hair color, which is black. And it could be a way of him fully releasing himself from the cookie cutter shape that Solomon wanted him and his magic to be.
Yeah.
And he's like reclaiming his identity again. Regardless of how you interpret it, his hair is an important thematic part of his character. Yeah,
Yes.
and he prides himself in his appearance, but also he has a very specific persona that he presents to the world. When he reverts back to his natural hair color, that's literally stripping him of that facade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very funny sequence for me, though, when he runs down the stairs with bright orange hair and
It's
is
so
like,
iconic.
"I'm ugly! I'm ugly!" And me, as someone with orange hair, I was like, okay, that's funny. I've heard those jokes before. I get it. And then, like, and then his hair fades from, like, he started blonde, his hair goes orange. He's like, "I'm ugly!" And then his hair fades to brown and then to black. And Sophie's like, "See, this is already an improvement." And I'm like, I get it. I know where I fall in the hierarchy. I get it.
No, Michael, hair is no.
Howl wishes he had your
Words
hair.
fail, Jino.
No.
Your hair is interesting.
Your hair is iconic.
Yeah.
For the longest time, Michael had the longest, like most luscious, beautiful locks you've
I'm
ever
not
seen on
fishing
a
for
person.
compliments.
No, but this is like a fact. This was like a fact about you. You're like your character silhouette. Was people were like, "Oh, Michael's got the hair," and now that you've cut it and it's sort of like voluminous and like catches
It's
the light.
way less appealing.
All this to say, listener, Michael has fantastic hair.
Yeah.
And always has had fantastic hair and always will have fantastic hair.
Well, I certainly didn't feel like it when Howl says. And then when he turns to the screen and looks me in the eyes with those big, beautiful blue peepers of
And
his.
says, "Michael Keane."
"This is the day you will die."
And it crawls out of the TV. I had another hair-related theory about the prince. Because when the prince pops up, he looks kind of like a manicured Howl from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe representing, because Prince was like, "Oh, yes, a kiss from my true love." Maybe representing the kind of guy that Sophie would have been like, "Yeah, okay," at the beginning of the movie. But Howl's, not only has Howl changed her, but her perception of like what a cool guy is also changed. From like tall, blonde, and white to tall, dark hair and white.
I could kind of see that as if the prince is representing like what is the most conventionally attractive person. At the beginning, Sophie is like, her younger sister is blonde and like fully done up makeup and everything. And so in Sophie's mind, she's like, well, I'm not that, so I'm not beautiful. So I could see that being true, where it's like blonde is seen as like the most ideal hair color and appearance or whatnot.
Yeah, based on the characters that are in positions of power, based on the characters who are popular, based on Howl's reaction to losing his blonde, and based on the fact that it looks a little bit like Germany, we can consider that this culture thinks that blonde equals beautiful. But that Sophie has learned No. We don't need that.
Beauty.
We can cut this out.
Beauty is
interesting.
what's on the inside of your magical memory door that leads to a magical
I personally
memory
think that Howl
field.
looks way better with dark hair.
Okay, yeah.
What was that?
Like if we had to rank Howl, like it'd be dark hair, blonde hair, brown hair, then way. No, I'm joking.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, it doesn't help that when it happens, it's frayed out on all sides, and he's wearing a bath towel, and you can see like there's no obscuring. This guy does not work out.
He's built like an Abercrombie and Fitch model from like 2009.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, he's a wizard. I'm not surprised. What is he doing? Exercising all day? No, he's making potions.
He's flying
Well,
around like
flying
Uncle
around.
Crow.
Speaking of Howl's facade and persona, there at the beginning because I mentioned like there's rumors that Howl is eating girls' hearts or whatever, and that's why he's a dangerous wizard. They don't really explain where that rumor comes about. In the book, actually, he's the one who starts that rumor because he's trying to avoid responsibility. So he's like, I want people to leave me alone, so I'm going to create this persona of like a really scary wizard who
That's
like
great.
so they don't really refer to it in the movie, but that could be true based on the book. This is the last thing I will say about Howl being pretty. But the very last shot when like they're flying on the castle
Very
and like
pretty.
Sophie and Howl are like on the balcony, I was like, they're both so pretty. Like,
Yeah.
and their hair kind of complements each other.
Yeah.
It's like the same like bob haircut.
Yeah.
Calcifer gives good haircuts, is the moral of the story.
Oh, did he give the haircut?
Well, because Sophie asks Calcifer to move the castle after she destroyed it. And he's like, I'm going to need some kind of like
Oh, right.
sacrifice in a way. So he's like, can I take your eyes? And she's like, how about my hair? So she gives him like, he basically chops off her braid and she gets like a short haircut, which if he really did that, it would look so bad. As someone who has gotten that haircut, it would have looked really bad.
But it's magic.
Magic.
Demon magic.
Yeah. I love Calcifer. I have a cup that I got from when the Studio Ghibli exhibit was at the Academy Museum. I have a cup that has Calcifer, and he's holding onto that little like wood stub.
Oh, yeah.
Aw.
And he's like, help.
There's nothing more adorable than Calcifer trying not to die.
Yeah. It works because it's like a water glass, so it's like kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Sorry, Calcifer.
You are right, though. It is very funny when he, when people are like, Sophie's like, I gotta brush the ashes out of your place, and he's like, Sophie, help! No, please.
Here's
please.
my thing. Sophie does not give a she has the biggest I don't give a attitude as an old woman, and I love that for her.
It's aspirational.
She's literally like, you're fine, Calcifer. I'm just sweeping out the ashes. And he's like, oh my God, I'm dying.
It's like the feeling when you're like, I don't know, you have like a nervous little dog who's like, don't take my thing from me.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, it'll be fine. I'm gonna like wash it or whatever. No, please don't, please, no. And it's like, this is not a big deal. You're gonna be fine.
And it ends up not being a big deal because later they scoop him out with a shovel and he doesn't have any wood at all. And he's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also thought it was cute how actually this was a scene that stood out to me more on this watch, which is there's a scene where it's nighttime, everyone's asleep. Howl returns from the front lines, basically. And he and Calcifer actually have a really extended conversation just about the war and magic. And it just had a really strong sense of the years of camaraderie, I guess, between them. As much as Calcifer complains about Howl, I would say they're friends.
Yeah.
Calcifer is the one person that Howl can really confide in about his worries about the war, because he can't talk to Markle. That's like a child and his apprentice. And before Sophie, it was just them, So I thought that scene was really nice. And then the reason why I brought it up is because Calcifer reaches out. He's like, isn't this so nice? Sophie gave me this pile of wood, so now I don't have to wait for someone to refill my wood. I can just grab it for myself. And I was like, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cute.
I agree. That scene was also, it goes pretty fast, but there's some important, almost world building logic depicted in there where
Yeah.
without that, you wouldn't know why these airships are spitting out goo people with top hats.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
like, oh, those are the other magic users that the king has pressed into service.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. The rapport is very much like they can just speak plainly and directly about things that are happening.
I think the reason why it stood out to me so much is that's the first time you see Howl like without any pretense.
Yeah.
Because he's just being himself with Calcifer. I mean, it's like Calcifer is almost like a part of him, so it's like there's no point in pretending with Calcifer. That's his moment where he gets to actually be like, I'm exhausted. This war sucks. I don't think we should be fighting it. It sucks that other magicians have turned themselves into monsters for a war that really means nothing. And you get to just like sit with him in that.
Couldn't be me. Never turn myself into a monster for the king. Especially not a goo monster.
Of all the monsters.
Yeah, why'd they decide to be floating goo people? Or, yeah.
Could have been dragons.
Could have been dragons.
Or like, I don't know. Aren't you more powerful as a wizard anyway?
You would think, right?
Yeah. Just like launch fireballs from the airship or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Is Howl the only one who can turn into a cool bird? I guess if the other ones could turn into cool birds, we'd get a little confused.
Yeah.
We'd be like, there's something sort of mysterious and, dare I say, dangerously attractive about this part man, part bird.
You have to make it really clear who the bad guys are by making them real goopy.
And kind of goofy, too.
Goofy and goopy. My two favorite Disney characters.
Who wouldn't want to turn into a bird? I would love to turn into a bird.
I don't
Another
know.
thing.
Does Howl have a cloaca in bird form? Because that'd be a little rough.
Just don't go when you're in bird form.
Just don't go.
Just don't go.
But what if that's one of the benefits? You're like, I can just be flying and no one's got to know.
Then only go in bird form. I don't know.
I was going to say, I wish that moving was that easy.
Yeah.
That would be great. That's the power I want to have.
If everyone could just erect a domicile for them to live in and then magically teleport through their door to any position on Earth, would that be better?
It would be different.
It would be different because then you'd have like areas of gathering. You'd have like plazas. This is like a high frequency door teleportation zone.
Yeah. They would regulate it, wouldn't they? It wouldn't erase all borders and all divisions between groups of people and enable a greater peace. No, they'd turn it into an airport, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. Getting real mopey and gooey would be great.
Calling upon the spirits of darkness when a girl dumps you. Okay.
Yeah.
I did like that little, like, at first you're like, oh, is this a problem? And then Markle's like, he did this the last time a girl dumped him.
No, Calcifer's it. Wait, does Markle say it?
I thought Markle said it.
I don't remember. That means, okay, because at first I thought Calcifer said it.
Calcifer's freaking out because Howl's turning into goo
right.
near
And Markle's
Calcifer.
like, I saw him do this once. But it definitely implies that he's done it multiple times in the past.
They're just in like old crusty goo.
I guess that's why the place looks so nuts.
Yeah, he keeps gooing it up. A lot of goo in this movie, if you really think about it. A lot of goo-based magic.
Yeah.
And every time he comes back as a bird, he's got to sort of like slough off the bird a little bit.
Yeah. How come every time like a world is like, we have magic now? What should we do with it? What if the goo could walk around? Excellent decision, wizard. Let's make the goo happen.
There's the things they never tell you when you first get into magic. At first you think, shouldn't it all just be flying and fireballs? And then you realize the common denominator of a great deal of magical practice is just goo.
It's just goo. And it's always like the really fancy magic users that are into goo. like friggin' the Blights in Owl House. Like, we're the Blights, the most powerful, richest wizards on the Boiling Hours. Boiling Hours? The Boiling Isles. We do goo. A goo is our thing. It's gooey.
Yeah, I personally would not become a goo wizard. That's for sure.
Instead, you could become a light bulb wizard.
I really relate to Sophie when she's like, I'm the scariest witch there is, a witch who cleans. I related so hard when she was like mad at Howl, so she like rage cleaned the castle. I don't think I've rage cleaned, but I definitely clean when I'm stressed.
Yeah.
And it feels great.
We should get you a Sophie hat. I think that would...
Oh, like the... Yeah.
Yeah. I like how she works in a hat shop and makes really nice hats, and then her hat is like a straw hat.
No, exactly. That's another part of her character is she
doesn't think she's worth
She doesn't
a
think
nice hat.
that she deserves, or maybe it's less about deserving, but she doesn't think that fancier hats suit her.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm a very plain girl, so I'm going to wear this plain hat.
Is she wearing a hat at the end in the last shot?
Yes.
What kind of hat is it? Is it the same hat?
It's a New York Yankees baseball hat.
Let me see if I can pull up a...
It's one of those beer drinking hats with the 2 beers on the sides, and she's
Oh,
like,
no, at the end, she's wearing like a big wide brim white hat. With...
well, then there you go.
Yeah.
There's the symbolism.
Yeah. People have talked about how the hats are a big symbol in this world. Because when you look at all the crowd scenes, everyone is wearing a hat. So I think it's like in this world, like hats are a way of showing your personality. Howl is maybe one of the outliers because he never wears hats. The only time he wears a hat is when he's pretending to be the king.
Yeah.
Haha.
But for him, outward appearance is still important. But yeah, at the end, like Sophie's wearing like a nice yellow dress and a wide brimmed hat. And they're floating in the sky. And it looks very idyllic and nice. And I wish I could live there.
Me too.
They have like a nice like outside lawn area. Like the Witch of the Waste is sitting on the porch and Markle's playing with Heen. And I'm just like, dang.
Yeah, and Calcifer's out there on the outdoor grill. Like a barbecue now.
Hot dog.
Hot dog.
And they sell hot dogs now.
Howl's Hot Dog Castle.
Howl's
Start of a
flying
franchise.
Hot dogs.
Howl's flying hot dog. Flying over the city and there's just hot dogs raining down.
Ghibli is known for its beautiful, delicious depictions of food, and that one really weird scene at the end of Howl's Moving Castle where it cuts to live action and they make a really gross hot dog.
Miyazaki himself going, this is why I made the adaptation of the book, because of that hot dog scene at the end. And everyone's like, what are you talking
I
about?
wanted to try one. Looks bad, but you know. There's a YouTube video online of Miyazaki making ramen for The Office
Oh.
during like one of their like movie behind the scenes. And the narrator's like, oh yeah, like every day one of the employees, they have like a list, like a rotating list of employees that will make dinner. And Miyazaki's on that list. And so in the video, it's him making like a giant barrel of ramen, like instant
Nice.
noodles.
That sounds really sweet, but also that means that they're always eating dinner at the studio, and that's
Yeah.
a little bit sad.
Oh, I'm sure that their work-life balance is shot.
Yeah.
Oh, balance? No. There's no balance. Not balance here.
It's just work life.
Yeah, it's
just-
work, life, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep, work.
It's hashtag work life, where you just work for your life.
God.
Ooh. But at least sometimes your boss makes you ramen.
I can totally see like an A24 like Blumhouse movie called like hashtag work life.
Oh gosh.
And it's like, oh, the horror. You can't leave work. It's like Severance.
That's why Severance resonates with so many people. Because they're like, yeah, my corporate life does suck.
Do you think Severance would work if it was like ported over to like Korea or Japan?
I don't know. Because
Yeah.
they work really long hours.
Yeah.
So
They might be like, this doesn't make sense. Why would
Maybe-
someone sever themselves just to sleep? Sorry.
that sucks.
Sorry, Korea and Japan. But, you know, it's kind of accurate though.
Yeah.
It's bad over there.
How should we end this? We should just wrap this
We're just
up.
gonna...
We just sort of devolved.
There we go. Editing Victoria, I'm so sorry.
Well, any last thoughts on Howl's Moving Castle? Moving Castle in the Sky by the end.
Read the original book. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Get a hat.
Get a hat. Go
Be
to
a bird.
Wales.
Go to
Yeah.
Wales. Play some rugby.
Yeah.
Visit your family.
Mm-hmm.
Make some bacon and eggs is what you should do.
Yeah.
I legitimately, I was at the grocery store last weekend and I knew that I was going to be watching Howl's Moving Castle. So I preemptively bought eggs and I have some bacon that is in the freezer. So I'm going to make bacon and eggs this weekend. So I can
Yes.
satisfy the craving.
Is it thick cut bacon though? It's impossible to find here in the States.
Thick cut
But
bacon.
thick
It's
cut
so hard to,
bacon.
the problem with thick cut bacon is it's hard for me to cook at home. even if I found
Yeah.
it, you know?
Well, the goal isn't to make it crispy though. It's to make chewy bacon.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I don't like
I've
crispy bacon.
I like crispy bacon.
That's fair. That's fine. I just
Gino immediately walks his position back.
But if I get a plate of like this extra crispy bacon that almost like disintegrates when
Okay,
you chew
I don't
it.
like that crispy bacon. The ones that
Just
are
crispy
the ones that
enough.
you get at like hotels sometimes, which are just like dehydrated meat. And it's like literally like if you pick it up too hard, it'll
Ashen
like
jerky.
no, literally like fall into shreds.
Yeah.
No, I'd like a chewy bacon. That's me.
I've gotten like, you go to Korean barbecue or something and they have like those big thick cut. I don't know what.
Samgyeopsal.
They never quite.
It's so good.
It's good, but I don't know. It just doesn't really taste like anything, does it?
Yeah, a lot of Korean barbecue, it's either marinated or not.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you're meant to dip it. And so you're getting a lot of like beef or pork flavor. But if you're expecting like a marinated cut, then it can taste bland.
Yeah.
Well, but it's because you're meant to eat it with like other sauces and like panchan and stuff.
I guess that makes sense. I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that someone of my very
We should go to Korean barbecue.
Donate to the Nostalgia Club
Look,
Ko-fi so we can go to Korean barbecue.
my cultural heritage is take this corned beef, take this cabbage, just boil it. Just boil it.
My
and then
hot
eat
take
it.
is that when I go to Korean barbecue, I prefer eating pork, but when I do hot pot, I prefer beef. I don't know. Boiled beef is better, but then like grilled pork is so good. This is
It's all
not
good.
important.
Do you want to know a Korean barbecue fact that I might have already told you guys, but I'm so excited about it anyway?
Yeah.
A KBBQF?
A KBBQF. I learned recently that American-style Korean barbecue is actually fusion food, because the cuts of meat that are traditionally used, like galbi, in the States is like cut with the bone, like the bone is cut into like short little
It's called
rounds.
LA kalbi.
Yeah. In Korea, it's not cut. It's like the whole flat. They keep the bone intact. And then it's instead of cut like this way, instead of cut horizontally, it's cut vertically or whatever,
Okay.
the other way. When Korean immigrants came to the States, they tried to find those cuts and they couldn't. All they could find was Mexican style short ribs. And so the Korean barbecue that we know today is actually Mexican cuts of meat that then the Koreans back in Korea were like, that's a way better cut of meat. Let's just do that because it's way more tender and like better picking up sauces and stuff.
Wow.
So it's actually like American Korean barbecue is actually Mexican Korean fusion.
I love that.
Yeah. It's just immigrants doing what they can, what they got.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it tastes so good.
How
It
wonderful.
tastes so good. So when you have fusion Korean Brazilian tacos, it's actually coming full circle because it goes from Korea through Mexico, back around through Brazil, and then it goes right back around into Mexico before hitting Korea again. It's just this
There
weird
are a lot
circle
of like
food.
Korean, Mexican, or just Latin American food fusion
Yeah.
restaurants.
Yeah.
Pacific Alliance.
Hooray!
Woo!
Listen, we all just love spices
Yum.
and flavor
And cheese.
and grilling on a big flat iron.
Yum.
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 There's nothing wrong with putting meat and boiling it, though. I love a good soup.
Well, I just mean in terms of, I like the corned beef and the cabbage, but it's, if we're talking about a meat where it's like, no, you're supposed to have extra stuff to dip it in. It's like, oh, see, my expectation ends with the meat comes out of the pot.
If it's not in the bowl, I won't eat it. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Nostalgia Club. Good luck editing, Victoria. I hope it comes together real swell. If you want to support the show, you can leave us a message on your email platform of choice at nostalgiclubpodcast@gmail.com or leave us a message on Instagram at nostalgiclubpodcast.
Or in the
We'll have-
comments of this episode.
Yeah, or
Yes.
just like think kind thoughts toward us. We'll pick it up.
Yeah, but more effective than thinking kind thoughts is rating us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. It really helps us out. You don't understand how much we need these ratings. It really does help.
We know that all those other podcasts you're listening to are saying the same thing, like, oh, it really helps us out, but it's different for us.
It's different. It's different for us. We're in a saw trap right now. And if we don't get 100 5-star ratings in the next hour,
Whoa.
They're going to take away our bacon and eggs.
yeah.
Yeah,
We'll have saw the bacon and eggs, but we can't eat them.
that's the saw trap.
That's the We also have Mouse Knight Studios stuff on Blue Sky and Tumblr and Instagram. Listen to Ghost Inspectors anywhere you get your podcasts. And you can also support us on Ko-fi so we can afford those streaming platforms that keep getting more and more expensive.
And eggs.
And eggs.
I
With
know
the
we say this
bacon.
all the time, but yeah.
Eggs and bacon. And until next time.
You're wrong about Howl. He's tall and hot, and his hair is actually black. And I'm totally going to just absolutely slam him down when I get back home. And Solomon is like...
Victoria looks scandalized over there.
And Solomon is like, oh my gosh, just stop. Go. Get out of here. You're fine. Keep him. Oh. Somebody do a real one.
Nope.
That's it.
That's it. You gotta live with yourself, Michael.
You're wrong about Howl. He's not as competent as you think. He's actually pretty vain. He turns into goop when he's like, upset about the color of his hair. I don't think he's cut out for war.
He thinks
Really?
it's cool to wear his jacket over his shoulders, but not put his arms through the sleeves. And then he flies around like
I
that.
actually really wanted to cosplay Howl for a while.
How does the jacket stay on his shoulders? Is it pinned? If it's
No,
pinned,
it's the power of magic.
that's a waste of magic.
It's the power of being a hot man.
Okay, real quick though, when he first meets Sophie, that whole sequence is like specially curated for like getting the heart a fluttering.
Yeah.
A little bit of
It's their meet cute, except, we didn't even talk about this. His first line is like, there you are, I've been looking everywhere for you, which at first you could be like, oh, that's a really good excuse of being like, oh, this is like someone in her life.
Oh,
But-
yeah.
You could say it's because he's been looking for her for, I don't know how many years, how old he is. Let's say 10 years.
800 years.
very
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's been looking for Sophie all this time so that she can give his heart back.
Oh,
Aw.
Aw. Now my heart feels alight, as if it has been taken by Calcifer.
and my heart's full of goop.
And my heart's full of cholesterol from all these bacon and eggs.
It's all I could eat.
Okay, we gotta stop.
Bye.
It. Goodbye.